What's up, guys? So, just want to make the watch list video going into the week of May 28th. Happy Memorial Day. Let's get into the charts. So, first thing to notice, ES is officially, well, not officially, at the end of this week, should be marked as a squeeze. So, we are now entering into a phase of where we are entering into a squeeze, which usually produces the next component for kind of either the next leg up, or down, whatever it may be. So you can kind of see here. So weekly squeeze, when it fired off, pushed us to the downside here a couple different times, and then pushed us to the upside over here, and so on and so forth. So now what I'm kind of looking for is in the short term, I think long term, I think we may have a little more consolidation, just to give this squeeze some time to develop. And this isn't a official signal just yet because we have not, this candle hasn't closed for the week. But one thing I think we want to note for sure is last week's highs and lows. You can do this on ES, you can do this on the NASDAQ, on SPY, whatever you want to do. Because we did trade in a pretty tight, I wouldn't call it tight actually, about a 100-point range last week. And we did that on increasing volume. So we kind of had some low volume moves up following this candle here. But now we are kind of sitting at the point where we kind of got to see what's going to happen next. So looking at this, we can see that we've kind of created this range. You could even mark the level more closer to here, that 53.50 level. But though this is kind of the range that we are trading in, right? So in between here and here. So what's interesting is that we can kind of see now that this is probably going to dictate the direction of the next move. Now, if we do break this level here and the 21 EMA, which is this white line right here, I would probably expect us to continue downside and revisit and retest this 21 EMA on the weekly time frame. So roughly around that 51.50 or 51.30 to be more specific. And so that's kind of what I'm watching into this week. During the session today, futures trade on holidays pretty often. It kind of just varies on the schedule, but you could see here into the close today at around 1 o'clock, we got some buyers, which buyers showed up on Friday after this sell-off we had. Buyers showed up and kind of pushed us higher here, and then also pushed us higher today when there really wasn't, markets really weren't open. So it was pretty interesting. We had a 15-minute squeeze with buy signal, a 30-minute, a 1 hour, no 2 hour, but, and then, yeah, so we had a nice move into the end of the day. The NASDAQ and the S&P both had a good move. So we want to kind of pay attention to what we may see into this week. But I don't think we will see, I think we'll continue to trade in a range right around here until this level here or this level here is broken. So you do want to pay attention to that. One thing that did break its trading range last week was YM. I mean, now when we're looking at this, it is in a much larger trading range. You can kind of see from here to here, and this is typically kind of the action what a weekly squeeze will look like. And that's, we've been kind of forming one, and now we've been trading within that this range here. And so if we go to the lower time frames, you can see we had kind of this trading range head and shoulders type deal going into last week. And here was kind of the bottom of the range, and then here was the top. And we were trading in that range. And then once this kind of broke, that gave the rest of the market the go ahead to kind of continue to drop. So but it looks like it's starting to rebound at this support here. So we'll kind of pay attention to that. So some levels, if you're trading the Dow, would be the support level here. And really that's the major level that I see right now that's in play. And then obviously we've got a level way up here. But for now, this 39,100 is going to act as a key level of support. So we kind of want to pay attention to that. On top of that, for the NASDAQ, you can see this thing is kind of just chugging along. We had that daily squeeze fire off to the upside, and now we're seeing continuation. This one looks like it's much less consolidating than the S&P 500, but you can see the S&P is kind of struggling at the most recent high. And then right now, look at the weekly time frame. This one does have a weekly squeeze that's been in for quite some time, but the momentum hasn't been shifting to the upside, so we kind of want to be cautious of that. But both of the indexes have a 3-day squeeze. So with that being said, we could see a continuation to the upside just based on this 3-day squeeze. I typically don't play the 3-day squeeze that much, but it is something to keep in your back pocket that if we do see a continuation to the upside, you can kind of continue to day trade to the upside in hopes that that 3-day might trigger the weekly on both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. But I do think right now is kind of a day trading market, especially with the range that I gave you in the S&P 500, which is kind of that range from here, last week's candle. So that's the trading range I would be paying attention to going into this week. So that's the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. And that's kind of what I would be watching into this week. Watch your lower time frames. Right now, the bias is to the upside. So I would be leaning on a trade to the upside. Okay, so that's kind of that. Next, some stocks that I do like for swing trades going into this week would be this one is a little tough because it has earnings, but I do want to keep it on my watch list. HPE, so weekly time frame, weekly squeeze, looks great. And our all-time high is right where this wick happened here. So we've kind of been trading in a range of this candle here. And I think earnings might do it, but it's worth keeping on the watch list to see if we can break this high here of about $20 is basically that resistance for a continuation to the upside. The monthly is also in a squeeze, so I think this could be a pretty explosive move. You can see here we kind of had support now or resistance at around $17, and now it's kind of turning to support. And so yeah, I think this one could be a nice move to the upside. On top of that, one that already did have earnings that we can play is TJ Maxx. We've got a weekly squeeze. We had earnings, plenty of volume coming in. We had the earnings gap up. It's kind of holding that gap up. So we'll be looking for maybe some lower time frame entries to play this weekly squeeze and see if we can go tag 110. Right now it's broke through this critical support or resistance of about $100. And with that high volume breakout, looking for continuation to the upside. You can kind of see here, anytime we've had a weekly squeeze, past 3 times, you can see here we had a nice upside move here, and it doesn't look like it's bucking the trend whatsoever. And so I'm just looking for continuation to the upside on this name. Another name, maybe this is more for a shares portfolio, but LII, contracts are really illiquid on this name. So what I would say is, if you're going to play it with shares. So I'm not going to go over it too much, but this one just does look like a good stock for continuation as long as it holds the 500 level. And then from there, one that has earnings this week is Marvel. This one's more of a speculative play, but I'll probably wait until after earnings. But this one looks good for a continuation to the upside. It looks like the Bulls have this under control, and I think that we could see a continuation, potentially into that new high and then eventually $100, as long as everything goes well with earnings. A couple more here for some short trades. First one being APA. So this one, it looks like it's got a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern here. Looks like it broke, fake some people out, and then push right back down. We've got a weekly squeeze. And I think that we could just see a continuation to the downside on this one. The monthly has got a squeeze. It looks like it's ready to fire downside. The weekly has a squeeze, which looks like it's ready to fire to the downside. The daily has a squeeze, which is getting ready, or one dot in, but looks like we could see continuation to the downside, especially with the swift move down after earnings. I think this one would be a nice candidate to see lower prices, especially into probably this first target would be about $5 lower. Another one, Cisco. This chart is kind of just holding a pretty nice downtrend. And you can see we're probably going to see some continuation here. And I do like this candle, this rejection candle on high volume. I believe it was off of earnings. Yep, we had earnings, had a push up. And from there, we ultimately created this inverse hammer. I think that's what you call it, but more so I'm concerned with the strength with volume and the reversal that it's showing, okay? On top of that, you go to the 3-day. We also have a short trigger on this one as well. Look for it to go test the support about $1 lower. And then if it breaks there, we could see some pretty nice continuation. From there, another short opportunity would be EL. So this one I think has probably the most downside potential here. As long as it can break this support around 121.50, I think we could see this previous low around 102, but really head back to that $100 level. So I do think there's a good shot that this thing is ready to head much lower. This is probably my second favorite behind APA. Other than that, this one I don't love too much. This one is probably the highest risk to reward trade that we have on the books here. You can see this trend line that we have been holding for quite some time and continued to bounce off of on SLB. We go to the monthly. It's got a monthly squeeze, kind of had all this supply here that we rejected. If I drew it out for you, that we kind of rejected. Looks like a little bit of a break and retest type deal. And then from there, go to the weekly. And the weekly looks like it's ready to fire short. Typically what happens is when you have a trend line break, I know this is a very large move, but you could see there's a really large move downside here. So when a trend line breaks, typically that target is the beginning of that trend. That's just how I've always learned it. Now, this, I understand this is a very far target, but I do think that there's a possibility for that to happen. Now, this took about 3 years to get where it is now. So definitely give some contracts time if you're looking to try to see that play all the way through. It also has a daily time frame squeeze that you could play to the downside that I think is at least good to head back to around $40, $41. You kind of see there's clear support here. So that's kind of what I'm watching into this week. And yeah, so those are the tickers that I'm watching into this week. Kind of gave you the game plan for the NASDAQ and the S&P, and then gave you some long trades, some short trades. Choose which ones you like. If I was ranking my top favorites out of here, it'd probably be TJ Maxx. LII has the best looking chart. It's just the contracts are really illiquid. And then from there, I like shorts and APA and also Cisco. So keep your eyes on those trades. Let me know what you think. Wait for those lower time frame signals to take the higher time frame trade. And I will see you guys for the markets tomorrow. We have a Memorial Day sale going on today. It is ending, it's 30% off either the first year or your first month, but that ends tonight at midnight. So make sure that you take advantage of that if that's something you're looking to do. And I will see you guys for markets tomorrow.